Hello and good evening. My name is Kristen Hatfield, and we are so happy that you're joining us this evening at our Ask the Experts webinar here at the University of St. Thomas. Well, and as you can tell, we're not actually here at the University of St. Thomas. We're repping our purple, we're doing our best, but we are missing campus. Most of us have not been there for a little bit, but we're really happy to be able to come on with you tonight and share all sorts of information about St. Thomas and help answer questions as you prepare for next fall. We realize most of you are seniors that are joining us. There are some who are not yet in the senior year, and we are welcome to have you here. We're really excited you're joining us as well. A lot of our questions tonight will be very focused on preparing for next fall, and we appreciate everyone who gave us questions ahead of time. That was fantastic. We've got a whole list of them and another opportunity to make sure that you send your questions your way to us. As I said, my name is Kristen Hatfield. I'm Director of Admissions, and we do have a great group of experts and panelists here tonight. I know that what we're going to do is first have everyone go around and introduce themselves so you have a sense of who is joining you this evening. And what a beautiful evening it is. I'm delighted to see so many of you here. There's, according to my notes, more than 200 people online with us. And if any of you are from the Twin Cities area, you are missing out on a great night to be with us, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much. So as an attendee, I know a couple people have asked, you are automatically muted. We cannot hear you, so you don't have to worry about whispering on your couch or talking to your family. You can feel free to do that. And I want to point, there is a Q&A at the bottom where you can ask any of your questions. So please feel free to jot questions right now through the evening, and we will do our best to answer those questions as we're going along. And we also have a few people in the background who will be answering questions offline. So rest assured, if you ask a question, if we don't get to it on the actual webinar, we will absolutely make sure that we get to it and get to you and get an answer for you. So without any further ado, let's meet our experts. I'm going to call on these individuals so that they can tell you a little bit more about themselves. And I'm going to start with Cameron. Cameron, would you please let them know who you are?
Hi, everyone. My name's Cameron. I am a junior here at St. Thomas, majoring in entrepreneurship with a minor in theology, and I'm originally from Tomah, Wisconsin.
Next, I'll have Sophie go.
Hey everyone, my name is Sophie. I'm a junior here at St. Thomas and I'm studying Spanish education, and I'm originally from Plainfield, Illinois.
Amanda, can you go next?
I sure can. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Amanda Ganthu, and I am an assistant director in the financial aid office. I've been in the profession for probably about 8 years. It's been 2 years here at St. Thomas.
Susan, your turn.
All right. Hello, my name is Susan Anderson. My title is I'm the Director of Academic Support and Compliance. And that means that I have supervisory responsibilities in academic counseling and disability resources. And I've worked at St. Thomas for over 14 years. Welcome.
Thank you. Christina, can you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Christina Pappas and I am a senior here at the University of St. Thomas. I'm studying business communication and minoring in psychology, and I grew up in Edina, Minnesota and went to Edina High School. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. Kyla, your turn.
Sure. My name is Kyla Crone. I'm a junior here at the University of St. Thomas. I'm majoring in communication and journalism and a legal studies minor as well. I'm from Prior Lake, Minnesota.
And Joe.
Hello, everybody. I'm Joe Herrera. I'm an Associate Director of Transfer Admission here at the University of St. Thomas. I've been here for 20 plus years, and I deal with a lot of transferring of credit issues.
Linda, you're next. Hi, Linda. Can you go next?
Okay, good evening. My name is Linda Bachman. I'm the Dean of Students at St. Thomas, and we're really excited to interact with all of you tonight. I've been in my role as Dean for just a little bit under 5 years.
And Josh, your turn.
Hi everyone, I'm Josh Hangmule. I'm an Assistant Dean of Students, and one of my roles here is coordinating our orientation and registration programs for all new students, as well as working with our students who live off campus.
And Aaron, you are last.
Thanks, Kristen, and hi everyone. My name is Aaron Mackey. I'm the Associate Dean of Students and Director for Residence Life. I'm a Tommy, so I have my undergrad, grad, and postgrad degrees at St. Thomas, and I've been working now in student affairs and athletics for a little over 20 years.
I'll give a little bit more of an introduction about myself. You did already hear from me if you got the invitation to the event. I am the person whose fifth grader was videoing me in my home office that day. I am the mom of 3. I have a junior in high school. She's my first, and we're just getting started with the college search process, a freshman, and then the 5th grade son. And I have been at St. Thomas for more than 20 years, working in admissions virtually that whole time. And I'm just so excited to see all the folks on the screen tonight. So we are gonna dive right in and get started. Again, if you have questions, we would love for you to type them out in the Q&A section that's on the bottom of your screen, and we will start with answering those. I also, just a little housekeeping detail, want to let you know that we are recording the webinar tonight, and we will be posting it on our website, so you can access it later if you don't remember how we answered something, or you want to share with any friends, or if you're a student or a parent or whomever can't join you tonight, we are happy to share this with you later. All right, let's dive in. We're going to just get started with one of the first questions that we have. It's one that I'm going to actually direct to Susan, because it's a testing question. Sorry, I was reading it a little bit there. So the question is, if we plan on testing out of an entry-level Spanish class, it's a question that dives right into how we're going to do placement exams. When would the Spanish test take place, and what type of questions are part of the Spanish test? And if you can maybe also make it a little bit more broad, if you've got you know, others who might not have taken Spanish but might have taken other types of languages, that would be great too.
Thank you. Great question. So I work in academic counseling, and so that means that we have a staff of full-time academic counselors who help our incoming students register for the first semester of classes. And we are very thoughtful about how we help students get ready to do that. And so in the first part of May, you're going to get lots of information from St. Thomas about taking placement exams, and we'll have very specific instructions about that. And language exams, many of them, or the most popular ones, are offered online. And so it has been many, many years since I've studied Spanish, so I can't say what's exactly on the Spanish placement exam, but our Modern and Classical Languages department feels really confident about how all the placement exams really demonstrate students' mastery of certain things and places them in certain courses at St. Thomas. So we will provide instructions for that. And for many of our placement exams, and I'll just say the other ones are math, English, and chemistry. And we personalize those depending on individual student situations. So we'll tell you what placement exams are required and where to find them and the deadline to take them. And then our staff will use that information to help us inform students about how to register for the appropriate classes for the fall.
Thank you, Susan. That was great. The next question, I'm going to have Aaron take a stab at this one. And we got a lot of questions about the new dorms. So this one is sticking with that vein. Someone asked it live, and it also got asked a lot of times. So this one specifically said, if we want to get into the new dorms, what's the best way we ensure a spot in them? I know Aaron loves these questions.
Thanks, Kristen. And yes, another great question. And just to make a little plug for our website too, for anyone who wants to get the latest information about the residence hall options, you can go to our Residence Life website, and we have all the halls that first-year students will be able to preference in terms of housing, which also has floor plans and videos for a couple of them, and so you can get a real in-depth walkthrough of the halls as well. We do have 2 new halls that are being constructed right now. Both of them will be available for you, for our incoming class next fall. One of them, Tommy North, was always going to be available as a first-year hall. And then we've made a late switch here. So for those of you who maybe came to campus and did some tours previously, you would have done a walkthrough of Brady Residence Hall. We have now chosen to have Brady Residence Hall be renovated during the academic year and not during the summer. And so we will then put first years now in Tommy East, which was really going to be just for second years, but we're now going to open up for first years. So there are 2 new residence halls, along with Ireland Hall, Dowling Hall, and Murray Hall. So there's lots of really good options. We will get into a little later too about the housing preference form, but kind of the basics is you will have an opportunity to preference. You'll give preference to your first, second, third choice halls. You'll give preference to a living learning community, which we can go into more a little bit later too. And all of those pieces of the preference form, along with your housing deposit dates, along with roommate preferences, all go into a system for us behind the scenes, and then we provide a housing assignment to you. And so the 2 new halls are part of the package, and you will have an opportunity to give preference to those halls.
Thanks, Aaron. And this is another one that was common, so we're going to dive right into it because I know it's on a lot of people's minds. Since you were talking about the new halls and the fact that they're under construction right now, a lot of people are curious about if they will be ready in the fall. So I'm going to let you take that one too.
Yeah, so we are working with 2 outstanding companies, Opus Design Build and Ryan Companies. Opus is building our Tommy North Hall, and Ryan is building our Tommy East Hall. We are in communication with them daily about the impact of this virus on all industries, and the construction industry is a part of that. They are on site, they are working, work continues to be done. We have made a few adjustments to some different products and some timelines based on the shipment of product and where it's coming from in the world and being on a ship. So there are logistics to this. We are not, the construction industry is not absent from all that, it's part of it. But both companies are on schedule, and both companies are saying that the plan is to still have the halls ready for us in June, July, for us to start loading in furniture and getting set and getting ready to welcome our next class. As we all know, this virus has its own life, and this virus is causing lots of different changes. And so all of that can change for us too, and can change for the construction industry. We're aware of that. But we got great partners, and they're keeping us up to date about what's going on, and we're feeling good right now that those halls will be available to us in the fall.
Thanks, Aaron. That's great news. All right, I'm going to pass one over to the students now, and why don't I have Kyla take this one first? I love this question. From a student perspective, what do you love most about St. Thomas, Kyla?
That's a really good question. Probably the first thing that comes to my mind is all of the resources and opportunities I've gotten since coming to St. Thomas. I'm a first-generation college student, so no one in my family went to college or knew anything about the process. So that kind of scared me a lot at first, but since coming here, I felt really welcomed by the community, and especially my faculty that I really connected with. I saw like these special connections forming, and with my students around me, it was really easy to make those connections that I think really helped me at the smaller school as opposed to a bigger university. It was really easy for me to make those connections in classes and visit offices and ask the questions that I maybe would have been too scared to ask otherwise. So just a lot of the resources and the offices that are offered, and probably just the size of the school as well, that made it more approachable for me and really allowed me to connect with, like I said, my faculty and peers in my classroom in a really special way. So that's something I really like.
Because I really love that question, I'm going to have Sophie answer it too.
Hi, everyone. So I would say that my favorite part about going to St. Thomas is the community. I feel like every time I walk through campus, I can say hi to someone that I know, but I'm always meeting new people in my classes and through other friends, which I think is really special. I think we're the perfect size where you always see people you know, but there's always new people for you to meet. And I also really love the employment opportunities that we have here as well. I've had various different jobs on campus, ranging from a lot of different things. And in every opportunity, I feel like I've grown in a different aspect of myself that I can apply to my major, even if the job itself doesn't necessarily apply.
Thank you. All right, another very common one. This one's for you, Erin. Can you please talk about all these letters? Everyone wants to know about LLCs and TBLCs, please.
Yes, we love acronyms in higher education. So here's another acronym, FYE. We are launching a first-year experience for this incoming class. And this is part of our curriculum. It's part of our core curriculum that all of our first-year students will be entering into and engaged in. It's part of what you will do in your academic career. Living learning communities are connected to housing. It is a course that you would choose. It has a hall that it's attached to, so there's a connection to housing. And the thought about a living learning community is that it's an opportunity for students to have a class in common with the students that they also live in community with, to develop a more in-depth relationship with their faculty member and with the peers in their class, doing both classroom learning and out of classroom learning. And so that's a living learning community, and there's a housing connection. A TBLC, or a theme-based learning community, is also part of the FYE, the first year experience. This is not connected to housing. This is 2 courses based on a theme. And if you go out to our first year experience website, so we have a site that lays all this out for everyone too. So the website is all up to date with this. These are 2 courses around a theme. They are interdisciplinary. So a course of maybe English and maybe a course in business, something of different disciplines, where you then get to explore this common theme together with the courses, but it's 2 different courses. This is not connected to housing, so you would then live based on your preferences and where we assign you and with whom we assign you with. And then you would be entered into these courses with other students. So TBLC is a theme-based learning community, not connected to housing, 2 courses. LLC is a living learning community, connected to housing, 1 course.
Awesome, thank you. There's a couple in here, and I'm going to take one really quick. People asking about deadlines and if our, some people call it acceptance dates. We call it, date to confirm, or put your deposits in. There's lots of different ways to say this, but basically, when you want to let us know that, hey, I've chosen St. Thomas, and we always love to hear that, we do require 2 deposits. One is a $200 deposit if you were going to be a Tommy, and that secures your spot in the class. The second, if you plan to live on campus, is another $200 deposit that you can put down, and we'll talk a little bit later, as Erin referenced, about how that plays into your housing preferences and that process. We have moved because of everything that's happening, and we know a lot of students haven't been able to visit campuses that are shut down and are still, trying to make decisions in a lot of uncertainty. We moved our deposit date to June 1. So you have until June 1st to secure your spot in the class and send those deposits in. You also have until June 1st to ask for them back. They are refundable up until that date if, in fact, you have put a deposit in. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of those dates. And I also want to be aware, let you know that we're going to be flexible. We're going to pay attention to everything that's happening in the world, and be very mindful of all the uncertainty. I really am feeling a lot for seniors. Like I said, I have a junior daughter, and I'm watching a lot of her friends and thinking, oh gosh, it's tough to have what's happening right now happen to you. Let's just be honest about it. And so we want to be very mindful of that. We want to be available to you. And if for some reason June isn't an option for you, keep talking to us. We are going to be here for you, and we'll be able to provide what you need in order to make sure you're really comfortable with the decision that you're making. So I wanted to say that out loud too. Let's dive into a little bit of orientation talk. So Josh, I'm going to put you on the spot. And we talked about this a little bit, and guess what? It's a question people have. since we're talking about the virus, COVID-19, what happens if in fact we're worried about actually having an orientation session in the summer? And what does orientation look like too in a normal world? Let's talk about both of those things.
Yeah, I wanted to start with what our ideal is, which is we're able to bring you onto campus for our regularly scheduled orientation programs like we've done for years. That's the ideal. We typically do an orientation program that's a one-day full program. It's an orientation and registration. So on that day, we do some introductory content to St. Thomas, to the community, to what our values are as a community and how you could fit in and engage. Talk about some of those support resources that Kyla talked about. Start building that community that Sophie talked about. And then also get you registered for your first semester of classes. And I'll let Susan talk about the details on that a little bit more. That's all done in July, typically, with a whole lot of prep on the front end. There's different inventories we ask you to fill out about your course preferences. Get those transcripts in so we know what your credits are might be. Those placement tests Susan mentioned, right? All of that comes in turns, and there's a lot of contact between that May and June deadline and when we get you on campus in July. Then, back in September this year, you'd be back on campus for our welcome days, which again brings that entire first year class together, really hypes up that community. You have a chance to see everyone you met at orientation and do some stuff in person, build the entire class cohort. If things are changing, and as you know, they are changing every single day. I'm amazed that we're still making decisions about a week or two from now, it seems like, let alone for what might happen in July. Know that we are constantly looking at this. Linda, Susan, Aaron, and I are all talking about this all the time as we try to make decisions start. One of the things we're really committed to is that we keep as much of what makes St. Thomas and St. Thomas orientation distinctly our program and the reason you're coming here as possible. And one thing we're wrestling with is it's just hard to imagine doing that in an online way. To have you all sitting in front of computers for a day in July trying to engage each other in this way that we're doing it here, that just doesn't feel like the kind of program that we want to be able to offer you. We want you to be able to connect with one another. And so we're looking at a whole lot of different options, whether that be we would delay our days, whether we would just double our efforts right before school starts. But know that we're really considering a lot of different options. We'll for sure have some good information out to folks by or before those May deadlines, because we know it matters. We know it's important. And so, but the main thing that we want to make sure folks understand is that we want to deliver still a really quality orientation experience to start your year off strong, whatever shape that takes. And that's really the driving force in all the decisions we're making.
Thanks, Josh. We're going to talk now orientation. We call it O&R, and it stands for orientation and registration. And we have some registration type questions. So Susan, I'm going to have you take this one again. The question is, how soon would you like us to send a college transcript if you took college in the schools or the SEO or anything that might have been associated with the college transcript? And how about AP test scores? How do those get sent and when would you like them?
Thank you for that question. It's a good one. I want to just follow up first with some comments from Josh's comments about orientation, because it's orientation and registration. And in that one-day program, there's all that community building and ways for you to just get familiar with the campus and with lots of community members, including faculty members and academic counseling staff. And we are all there to help introduce students to degree requirements and how their individual situations kind of align to what's required for particular majors that they may be interested in. And then we assist students to register for classes. You actually learn how to do it. Go into the system and select your classes and put your schedule together. And you walk away from the day with your fall schedule. We hope that that can happen. And again, we're brainstorming about ways to do that in an engaging way that still allows you to learn all the things we want you to learn. And then part of that is knowing about you and what you're bringing. So many students have previously earned college credits, whether it's post-secondary enrollment option, college in the schools, advanced placement exams. If you have those grades posted on a transcript, you can send those anytime. The earlier, the better. If you have courses in progress right now, as soon as you have a grade posted and that those credits have grades, you can send those in. And I would not say it's never too early to do that unless they're in progress courses. It's not of that much value until we see that you've earned the credit and how those come in. Advanced placement scores, many students have already taken advanced placement exams and have scores, but many of those are in progress too. For advanced placement stuff that's in progress in the spring, those scores usually come to us in early July. So, and those come to us if you indicate St. Thomas as a place you'd like to have those scores sent. We get those in a big mass kind of report, and those then become associated with your record at St. Thomas. And if you have questions about that at all, you can always call academic counseling and we'll look you up in the system and we'll tell you what's in and what's still needed and all those things in the process.
All right, thanks, Susan. All right, I'm going to ask Cameron this one. The question is for you, Cameron, how many students are typically in your classes, or they say lecture halls here? And then there was a really common question that was asked prior to that was all about, do I have to apply to a specific college of, or how does it work as I'm choosing my major? So could you give the student perspective on both of those questions for us?
Yeah, definitely. So first talking about class sizes here at St. Thomas. So for me, the largest class I've had here was my first year at St. Thomas. It was a biology lecture that I was in. And there was about 70 students in it, but we still had labs attached with that course that had about 16 people per section. So you had the bigger lecture setting with about 70, and then you still had that smaller instruction where you actually got to do all the hands-on learning. And that was kind of a nice balance. After that class, though, the average class size, I would say, has been under 30. So I have a course I am in right now that there's 13 of us. And so there is quite a variety of courses depending on what you're looking for, and also depending on what major you're in, what year, and how deep into your major you've gotten. And then as far as having to apply to, when you apply to St. Thomas, if you have to apply to a certain college. So I actually started off as a biology major, so I was within the College of Arts and Sciences, and then later switched to business, and I'm now an entrepreneurship major. And so all I had to do for that was just to fill out a form that was signed by the associate dean, and that switched me from one college to the other. So it's not a long, lengthy process. You don't have to apply to one program or the other. And the nice part about having that core liberal arts focus here at St. Thomas is that you do take classes in a wide variety of those programs. And so you do have some of that flexibility when switching between programs if you choose to do so.
Awesome, thanks. All right, Amanda, I'm gonna have you, we've got some questions about work study or student employment on campus. So how do you apply for a job? What's the process? When should you start looking? All those fun kinds of topics. If you could cover that for us, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So any student can work on campus. I know there are some students have been awarded work study as part of their financial aid package. Even if you haven't been, that doesn't prevent a student from working on campus. Our financial aid website does have a specific link to go to. Our jobs can be found on the human resources page. There are a list of jobs that are available to students as positions become open and available, especially for the fall semester. Positions will be posted on there, and the details on how to apply will be found in those job descriptions.
All right, thank you. I'm going to put Christina up now, and here's another fun one just to kind of throw in some student experience, and it's going to be short because they want to know, how would you describe your experience at St. Thomas in 3 words?
Oh my, in 3 words. All right. I would say lots of opportunities. So that's 3 words. Opportunities and a lot of community building. So opportunities, community, and just inclusivity, I think, as well. There's always a place for everyone at St. Thomas. So those are my 3.
That's perfect. I'm gonna let you talk a little bit longer because there was a question about, can you kind of describe campus culture? and Versity on campus. And if you want to talk a little bit more about that, since you've started down that path, we'll let you keep going.
Yeah, so campus culture is great. That's actually one of the reasons I chose St. Thomas. Walking around on my tours in high school, everyone was so friendly, like the professional staff to any just students. They would wave and smile. So that's a reason why I chose St. Thomas. And then now being here, that has definitely translated into my 4 years. Everyone's holding doors for each other, or, you know, saying, excuse me, sorry, walking by. Everyone's just so friendly and really inclusive. The diversity aspect of St. Thomas is really great. We have an amazing student diversity and inclusion services office here, who they put on plenty of events and a lot of student run events, which make everything a lot more relatable, I think. So anything from like a weekly conversation in their office to bigger events with plenty of attendees. They just did a renovation and added an intercultural center. So a lot of ways just to connect with students and learn more about each other on a more personal level. And it's just been a really great office for all students to explore. So, yeah.
Awesome, thank you so much. Linda, I'm going to have you take this next one, and it is related to COVID-19. And there's been several questions as I'm scrolling through that are asking about what we anticipate may be happening in the fall, if we could predict, and basically our response and how the students are, how we're working with the students through all of this.
Sure. We appreciate the question. It's foremost on everybody's minds right now. I would let this group know that for over a month now, we've had team meets every morning at St. Thomas, other administrators from across the university to plan and work with the issues related to COVID-19. For the last part of the question, in terms of what are we doing right now with our students, we made a decision for students, initial decision to go online, and then followed up the decision as COVID progressed to move our students back to resident halls. So the faculty and staff have come together in an amazing way to work to support my ratio. Okay, I'm gonna log out and come back. Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay, I think she said she's going to log out and come back.
Yep, I'll be right back.
I'm having trouble hearing her too. All right, thanks. We'll see you back here in just a little bit. All right, let's move to a topic that I'm also seeing a lot of while we wait for Linda to come back, and hopefully her audio is better. Erin, let's talk through the housing preference process and how that all works, because that is definitely first and foremost. A lot of questions about if the timing is going to change given our May 1 date now pushing to June 1. Will we be doing anything different there? And then just in general, how does the roommate process work, and how do you do a housing preference form? So we're going to tackle that. Hopefully we'll then flip back to Linda once Erin's done with the housing question, and hopefully we'll be able to hear her better. Thanks, Erin. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. So the housing preference is one of the first things as part of the next steps for all of you who are incoming and wanting to live on campus. April 8th is when we will start sending out a housing preference form. This is where you will actually start giving us what your preferences are for living on campus in our residence halls. It's an online form. So if you have in your $200 class confirming and your $200 housing deposit, you will then get this form, and what it is instructions to the form. You'll go into a student portal, you'll have access to this form, and you can begin filling it out. I know one of the questions is about deadlines and extending of deadlines. This form will be live for you from the time you get it through June 17th. So we just ask you in that period of time to complete it. You might make some edits, you might learn some new information, you might find someone you want to room with, which I know is another question, which I'll get to a little bit too. And so there's time for you to continue to update that. We won't take information from it, if you will, until that mid-end of June, so that we can start making our housing assignments. So the deadline should not be too cumbersome, because we're going to give you flexibility in there to make those housing preferences. With the instructions to complete the preference form, we're also going to start sending you lots of important information and ask you to look into it and review it and to learn more about it so that you can make informed preference decisions. It can be as simple as saying, I want Hall A, but it can also be, and we're hoping it will be a little bit more informative for you too as you think about your academic progress. Earlier, I mentioned that we have a first-year experience. One of the requirements of that first-year experience is to choose between a living learning community or a theme-based learning community. It's part of our learning community requirement. And so you'll need to choose one of those two paths. And there's no right path, there's no wrong path, but they are two different paths. And so we're going to be sending you information and asking you just to learn more about that so that you're informed about those decisions. As I mentioned, the Living Learning Community does have a housing connection. So as you complete your housing preference form, we're going to want you to be as knowledgeable as you can about those two paths so that you're making good housing preferences. We will also be sending you a housing brochure. So lots of information is on the website, but we've put together this beautiful brochure as well too that will come to you, which will give you more information about everything I'm saying right now and a lot more. And then we will ask you to go out and explore the halls as well too on the website. So the housing preference form is where we'll be taking our data from. I know there's some questions about roommates too, so that will also go on there. So I'll just go ahead and address that as well too. There is a place on the housing preference form to say you have a preference of a roommate. And this can be a spot where it's someone that you know you have and you preference them, they preference you. If the two match, that's great. We'll match you up. If the two don't match, we'll be making calls over the summertime to learn a little bit more about what your preferences are. If you are looking at a living learning community, you will also get information in May about how maybe to find a roommate who has a similar interest in a community as you. Because we assign roommates based on living learning community for those who are choosing that path, we will give you an option, and it's a Facebook page to your class of 2024. And you can go out there, and you can even do this now and say, hey, I'm interested in this living learning community. It's in this hall. I might be majoring in it, I might not be, but I'm really interested in it. Anyone else interested? And that's a way for you also to find a roommate who has a similar interest in the community as you, so that you can both preference each other on the preference form. Historically, we do have about 40% who say, hey, I've got someone that I want to live with. And about 60% of our incoming students say, residence life, these are my preferences around halls and living learning communities. You find me a good match. The preference form has a list of questions too, based on kind of study habits and sleep and some other personal kind of preferences. And we can match you with someone who best meets those preferences too. So about half our students do that. Half our students say, I'm interested in a roommate. And then we provide housing assignments at the end of July based on all that data that we collect.
All right, fantastic. Thanks for all that info. Linda, let's give this another try. Fingers crossed.
Can you hear me?
Well, you're echoing, but let's try it.
How's this?
Ooh, that's good.
Okay, thanks for your patience, everybody. So back to the questions around COVID-19. As we work to support our students that are here with us right now, all of our staff on campus are available virtually and online to support students. So the same services are occurring each day, just in a new way. Academic counseling, students are Zooming in and doing drop-in sessions with them. Career counseling is meeting every day with students virtually, doing career counseling appointments. Student diversity and inclusion services is doing sessions where students, their whole staff is there and students can just drop in and Zoom in with them. So I want you to know that the campus is hard at work, still offering all of our support for students. And right now, we are moving forward optimistically, hoping that we will be fully in person in the fall. That's certainly all of our hope. As you all know, we also don't control all of that. And so our planning also includes the possibility, we're going to need to be flexible as we move into our fall semester. And I'm really confident our faculty and staff that we will be ready for whatever the world brings us at that time. I think there's a lot of scenarios that could, play out. It could even be that school starts with 2 weeks of online learning if we're not allowed to have everyone moved on campus quite yet. So that's an example of flexibility. Our goal is to have you there and on campus. That's what we want. But we're going to need to follow the guidelines that are put before us through the state and through the CDC, and know that we'll have a good plan in place for you.
All right, thank you. And you sounded great. That worked. I'm happy to see that. All right, Amanda, let's ask you a couple questions. We've got some people who are still interested in knowing if there's scholarships that might be available, or what they could do at this point in the process if they still have questions about financing their education.
Sure, absolutely. So every student is assigned a personal financial aid counselor. So you will work one-on-one with them. They'll stay with you for all 4 years just to help you along throughout your career. If you have questions regarding additional scholarship opportunities or additional financial aid, you would work with your personal financial aid counselor. They will walk you through your financial aid application that you submitted and go through various questions just to make sure everything was answered correctly. Oftentimes we find that there are errors that are done on the application, which can result in additional aid. So we definitely want to make sure everything is correct for you. And we will go through every avenue to see what more can be done. I believe that there is a scholarship on our St. Thomas website that is still available, the Board of Trustees. We are still reviewing applications at this time until all awards have been awarded. Right now, as far as I know, there are still some available, so please submit your applications. And then for private scholarships, I would highly work with your high school guidance counselor. They're going to be the best resource for local scholarships. There are also national databases that you can create a profile, and they will match scholarships with you. Yes.
Great, thank you very much. All right, Joe, I have one for you about people who are thinking they might be taking college coursework over the summer and wondering how that would work to make sure they would take the right course, and basically if they're bringing anything in from a community college or they're trying to figure out what to do this summer, how might you advise them?
All right, so if you're thinking about taking college level courses during the summer and having them transferred to the University of St. Thomas, your best bet is to look at our transfer credit tool on the transfer page. You can find it on the transfer admissions page and the freshman admissions page. It will help you look at the courses that are being offered at some of the community colleges that ultimately will transfer to the University of St. Thomas, ideally as a direct elective, direct equivalent to either our core or a major requirement. There's also guide sheets for our local community colleges also on that same page, where you can look at them and you can line up courses and where they're going to fit within inside of our core requirements at St. Thomas. So our website is a great location to start.
Thank you. I'm going to stick with that same type of vein. We have a question about how, I'm going to have you take this one, Joe, too. How do AP scores affect my GPA? Because I know you've gotten that before. And then if you're comfortable talking a little bit, obviously most of the seniors on here, or all the students, if you're taking an AP course, know that the AP exams are changing given everything that's happening with COVID-19. And do you mind trying to answer how we're looking at that, the 45-minute online only format specifically?
I might ask Susan to help me with this one here as we go. But generally for AP tests, we look at that if to transfer credits for a direct equivalent. It does not bring in a grade along with it at that point in time. So a big difference between that is it gets a direct equivalent at St. Thomas. It doesn't bring a grade in, but it does carry a credit value of what we would assign here at the University of St. Thomas. So if the course that you get that credit for is a 4-credit class here at St. Thomas, it would come in as a 4-credit class. Once again, no GPA established. The difference between that and a college course that you took college in the schools, PSEO type of course. In that scenario, we are looking at it as a transcribed course, and that GPA then, or that credit would come with you along with that GPA. So if that course was a 3-credit course at a local community college, you took it, you got a C- or greater in that class, that course would transfer to the University of St. Thomas with that letter grade and the 3 credits that go with it, and it would be evaluated in that particular area. I'm not quite 100% positive if we've changed anything now that the AP format has changed. I haven't heard that we're going to look at anything different, but I'll have Susan kind of give us a confirmation on that, yes or no.
What I can confirm is what Joe said. I can't confirm. I don't know the exact answer to that question about any changes. I've not gotten any official word that anything is different than what we've done in the past as of right now.
And I can report on that we have asked a few individuals on campus that question, and we will also be posting, we're going to build a frequently asked questions section on our website related to, we know we've gotten some questions about your high schools going past fail, potentially how that might impact things. The AP exam has been a common one, and so we're going to get those answers out for you on a frequently asked questions site on our website very soon. But again, what I've said before in terms of understanding that this is all out of your control and we are going to work with you is really the key thing that I'm continuing to tell people. Certainly don't panic about this. This is not something that's happening in just one portion of the country. This is impacting everyone. So it's equal in that regard. And so I'm confident that we will do the right thing for the students, as we've been mentioning. All right, so let's take a little bit of a detour, and we've gotten some questions about study abroad, and some of them have been about personal experiences. And we've got lots of panelists here who have studied abroad. So I'm just gonna pick Sophie for now. If you want to talk a little bit about your study abroad experience, then I'm going to actually let you cue it off probably to Christina. I think both of you can maybe share a little bit of your stories.
Cool. Hi. So this is my favorite topic to talk about. I loved my study abroad. I did a J term, or we have a break for the month of January in Cuba, which is so exciting as a Spanish education major because this isn't a country that we learn a lot about. So I took a Spanish and sociology course called Race, Gender, and Revolution, and I was there for about 3.5 weeks. It was a blended class with Elmhurst in Illinois and Augustana in South Dakota. So I got to meet people from all over the country. My professors are both from South Dakota, so I got to make new connections there. And I really got to grow in my connection with the people. I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize about study abroad is you're always around the people who live there, not just your classes. So it was really exciting to get to build those connections. Now I have friends in Cuba, which not a lot of people can say. And I loved my class. I feel like I learned so much more than I ever thought I could in such a short amount of time. And Cuba, I went to Havana, Varadero, and Santiago de Cuba. And then Christina can talk about hers.
Yeah, so I also took a J-term course abroad. So I think that's a big reason why our number of students who study abroad here at St. Thomas is so high is because of this J-term opportunity. So a lot of students do take advantage of it. We do also have those semester programs as well. So I went to Spain and Morocco, January 2019. And it was for my final theology requirement. It was Arab and Jewish influences in Spain and Morocco. It was a blast. I learned so much about history that I didn't even know about in the first place. We spent a week in Morocco. We got to spend a night in the Sahara Desert, which was just a dream, and then the rest of the time in Spain. And my course was also with half St. Thomas students and half Augustana students as well. So definitely got to meet a lot of cool new friends. We still keep in contact, but I would definitely encourage studying abroad. It is just a great opportunity. And if you're someone like me who wanted to go abroad but not go for a whole semester, the J-term opportunity is a great way to still achieve a study abroad experience.
All right, terrific. Thank you. We have a couple questions, quite a few actually, that are related to varsity athletics, and we don't have any varsity athletes on the panel, students. But raise your hand if you have a friend or you want to. Okay, Christina, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about how do student athletes balance and what's that experience like from your experience through someone else.
Yeah, so my freshman year roommate is on the hockey team. We're still best friends to this day. So she's in the women's hockey team. And I also have a few other friends on various sports teams like lacrosse and football. So with that, they have always told me that, you know, their teammates and their coaches, everyone is still and always just emphasizing how important academics are. And, you know, the coaches don't let their players let anything slide. I mean, what I've seen a lot is that the teammates are always keeping each other accountable. That's like the main thing I've noticed. Your teammates are going to keep you accountable. They're going to tell you, hey, like, don't skip that homework assignment. Like, we're counting on you, you know, things like that. But my first year roommate, she, you know, it's a big commitment playing a sport, I would say, but she loved it. You meet so many great people, and she was really able to grow in her role as well. I mean, now she was a captain this past year. But I would say here at St. Thomas, it is a really unique experience. We are one of the largest private schools here in Minnesota. So the sports environment is so fun, you know, going to the sports games and things like that. But it's a lot of work from what I've seen through my friends, but it pays off. They have so much fun, and studies are also just taken so importantly. So.
Great, thank you very much. Linda, I'm wondering if you'd be comfortable in your role talking a little bit about our transition out of the MIAC. That question has come up a little bit too, just in terms of what that might mean, and timing has been a little bit of a question with that.
Can you hear me? Okay, so I'm all nervous about my technology now, so apologies. So we will know in April. That's the timeline we've been given, where as a university, we should know more officially if we are going to be making a move to become a D1 school. So that's not official yet. I'm sure we will publicize it well when that happens. And so, you know, if you're an athlete, we're very excited about the path in front of us. We're extremely excited about all the opportunity it's going to bring our students and the university. If you're a student who is, you know, wondering what it means to come in as a first-year student, when we very likely will make that transition, it wouldn't be this upcoming year. It would be the year after. So it would start fall of 21. I would really encourage you to reach out to athletics. They want to talk to you. They've got coaches available. They have staff available. So none of us are on the athletic staff. They're going to give you by far the best information to help you with decision making. So really, that's my shout out, is to reach out to the athletic staff and the coaches and have that conversation. But from a timeline, I can tell you that it would not impact students starting this year. We will be D3 in the MIAC for this next year, and then the change would come the following year.
Great, thank you. I think that gets right to it. Can I have Cameron talk a little bit about Catholic faith life on campus? I know this is a topic he likes to talk a lot about, so go ahead, Cameron.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I didn't grow up Catholic. I ended up becoming Catholic my freshman year. And so for me, that was a really interesting process. So I went through RCIA, which is a basically confirmation process for adults. But with Catholic faith life here on campus, there's daily mass offered multiple times a day. On the weekends, there's several different options, both on campus as well as in the local neighborhoods. I think one of my favorite was always Last Chance Mass, so it was like 9 o'clock at night. It was a little bit more of a like modern math, but there's always a great community around that. And for students coming from multiple different backgrounds, like I said, I didn't grow up Catholic, and so that wasn't, I grew up Protestant, and so for me, coming in as a first-year student, there were still several opportunities for that. I know several of my friends had very different experiences. Some grew up Catholic, some didn't, but everyone finds their resources at St. Thomas, so whether they're in one of the like Catholic clubs on campus, so Catholic Men's Leadership, St. Paul's Outreach. There's also other non-denominational ones like Crew, which is another youth group type of club on campus. But there's a variety of clubs and opportunities for students, both within the Catholic faith and in other Christian denominations, as well as other religions, to try to meet the needs of all of our students. So there's different retreats you can go on. I know my roommate and I did one of those our first year. It was a silent retreat. Definitely a challenge to not talk for that long, but you learn a lot about yourself through a lot of those different opportunities. So no matter what sort of faith background you're coming from, I guarantee there's a resource for you here at St. Thomas.
Great, thank you so much. That's awesome. I'm gonna have Josh take I've looked at a couple that are very similar, and I know you can tackle a lot of these. They're about parking. So there's been a couple questions about parking on campus. What does it cost? Will the new res halls have parking with them? How does it work to park on campus as a freshman? So if you would love to talk about all things related to parking and getting around the Twin Cities without a car, I know you'll talk about that, won't you?
I can definitely do some of that. I'll defer to Aaron a little bit about for the first years living on campus, about parking on campus. But what I will say is, for students, if you're living off campus and need to have access to a vehicle to drive back and forth, first-year commuter students can definitely purchase a parking permit. Parking Services works hard to make it the most affordable parking permit on campus. I always tell folks I pay more as a faculty staff member. Resident students tend to pay more because we know the commuting students probably need that parking permit if they're planning on driving. But if you're familiar with the Twin Cities metro area, we have a really great public transportation system in the Metro Transit system. There's 3 bus stops that come right to our campus, 3 routes that come right to our campus. It's incredibly affordable. I've worked with a lot of students who have used it. I'm seeing Sophie nod because when she was an orientation leader last year, we took a bus ride, and I know she's used it in other places as well. And so especially if you're in the St. Paul, Minneapolis area, you don't need a car to get around from campus to most of the other places. And even with a lot of the suburbs, there's parking rides and those kind of things, so you could probably even hop a bus back if you live in the suburbs and your folks could pick you up somewhere and get back and forth relatively easily. There's also, we run a shuttle bus between our St. Paul and our Minneapolis campus. During the normal days, it leaves about every 20 minutes from each campus. So I know a lot of on-campus students will take our shuttle to downtown Minneapolis and actually shop at the Target in downtown Minneapolis because it's a free shuttle ride away versus having to drive somewhere and have a car, those kind of things. But I'll toss it over to Aaron to talk about residential student parking.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Our favorite topic. For our first-year students, incoming first-year students, we do ask you to not to plan to have a vehicle. We're looking for our first years to really immerse themselves in campus and campus life, to learn how to move about the Twin Cities and the surrounding neighborhood using other modes of transportation like our city buses and walking and biking. We have lots of bike storage on campus, so we encourage you to bring a bike. Our director of public safety will say, find a bike that is modestly priced, but find a lock that's expensive, and to bring a bike and use our bike storage. In our 2 new halls, along with underneath Morrison Hall, there's also some indoor bike storage. In our 2 new halls, we're actually putting a lot of bike storage in there that's covered. So in terms of bringing a bike to campus, there's outdoor bike parking, and then there will also be covered indoor bike parking. So for our students who are going to their 2nd year, 3rd year, 4th year students living on campus, that's where parking permits do start to open up more. And so we do encourage our students who are going to that 2nd, 3rd, 4th year who might be looking at internships or off-campus jobs as they're looking to start to grow their professional careers and needing that car to move about the Twin Cities between internships, they can apply for parking permits at that point. So for first years, there may be a limited number. I hate to even say that because it's very limited and it's based on if there's permits available at the time. We really ask you to plan on not having a vehicle in that first year and to really immerse yourself on campus.
All right, trying to get myself off mute. There we go. All right, thanks for that. I noticed it is past 8 o'clock and we did promise you an 8 o'clock end time, but there's still quite a few of you on and still quite a few questions out there. So we did prep our panelists that if things were going well, we were gonna keep going. So let's keep going, everybody, at least for a little bit. We will definitely try to wrap up at 8:15. So we'll get through a few more questions here. So quick, get your questions out there if you'd like. I think I'm going to ask the students to share a little bit more about their experience. There's obviously a lot of questions always about living on campus and how did you find your roommate and how did that experience go for you? So Kyla, why don't you take that one, tackle it for us a little bit in terms of how you found a roommate, what that experience was like.
Yeah, so a couple options were already mentioned. Erin talked about the preference form that you fill out, and Residence Life can help match you up with a roommate. There's also a St. Thomas Facebook page. So that was something I found really helpful, even if I wasn't looking for a roommate, just to see what other students were saying and get to know people before I even stepped foot on campus. So students do it a variety of ways. I personally used the Facebook page. I had 3 roommates my freshman year. It's kind of unique, and we got along really well, but I also was pretty diligent about asking the right questions and making sure we were all similar in like when we like to study and go to bed and our preferences and stuff like that. So I think that's the most important thing to keep in mind. Is you're not just looking for a good friend, but you're also looking for someone you're gonna live well with, which can be tricky, but there's also a ton of resources. So if things aren't working out like you hoped, it's not the end of the world. It seems like it's gonna end ruin your entire college experience, but it doesn't. And there's lots of resources with Residence Life, and on every floor there is a resident advisor or an RA who can help solve roommate conflicts. But I had a really easy experience, and me and all my roommates are still friends. I'm still living with one of my freshman year roommates, so I was lucky. But if it doesn't work out as planned, it's not the end of the world, and things move on, and it's pretty easy to find people to help with your situation.
Awesome, thanks so much. All right, I'm gonna ask Josh, I think there's probably lots of good people who can answer this question, but I'm gonna put you on the spot. They're asking about pre-college week or move-in week, or what are we call them welcome days. So why don't you let us know about those?
So welcome days will start Memorial Day weekend before classes start. So our classes start on Wednesday. I'm blanking on, I think September 9th is roughly the date, if I'm remembering right. Kyla's nodding, so I'll take that as an input. Aaron's nodding for me too, great. And so most students will move into the halls by or before the Friday before that. We have a couple of pre-programs. If you're an LLC, there's some things going on, those kind of things. But from that Friday until Wednesday when classes start, the campus is really taken over by the first year class. And certainly the upperclassmen are around and are involved, but the energy, the excitement is really about getting you excited to be part of the community. There's a group of welcome day leaders that do nothing but make sure you are where you need to be, getting the support you need and help you out. Sophie's smiling again because I know she was one of those. I'm sure, I think others were as well. They wear these obnoxiously bright green shirts. You can't miss them. They're not classy, but they work. They start with activities where you get the whole first year class out on the football field, getting icebreaker activities and going. That sounds like a lot. An introvert like me panics when I say that out loud, but it's worth it. I encourage everyone to put themselves out there because you'll never have another time like this. And that's just the first thing. A lot of the welcome day activities are built in smaller groups. You'll actually have an opportunity this year to get into a small group with that in addition to the, with your first year experience course. And so in addition to the theme-based learning communities Aaron was mentioning, we have a FYEX 100. It's a course specifically first years about kind of an extended orientation, beginning college. You'll get together with that group during welcome days and some significant time with them, getting to know the folks that you're going to see every week for the entirety of your first semester in class as well. And so it's a lot of opportunity to form some really small connections with other students, as well as just kind of absorb the energy and the excitement, ranging from that, that game of icebreakers. Our March Through the Arches is the day right before classes started. It's a wonderful tradition. I'm hoping the students are nodding and agreeing with that, where the entire first year class walks through our symbolic arches and gets welcomed by faculty, staff, and current students along the sidewalk. It's just really an exciting time that kicks off that community that some of the students have been talking about. And I am so excited for it every year.
Thanks, Josh. I'm going to ask the students, since we're talking about the students and they're nodding, we've got a couple questions about, they've noticed that you're either all of you have majors and minors, or there's lots of talk about double majors. So why don't we have Christina? Can you talk a little bit about choosing a major? And, it seems like a lot of students do have a major in something else when they're at St. Thomas. So maybe tell them a little bit about that too.
Yeah, so choosing a major here, well, I'll just start off by saying I switched my major three times actually. So super easy to figure it out because of the resources available. So I went to the academic counseling office like crazy. I mean, you have to go every semester as a student here anyway to get like registration all sorted out. So they are already on top of you keeping that 4-year track on plan. But I went to them as well for major advice, basically sat down with them and said, hey, I'm interested in these things, a career I'm interested in is this, what are some good majors for me? And they laid it out for me, and I ended up choosing business communication. And I am minoring in psychology. Most minors here, it's like a 5-course program. So I'm taking 5 psychology courses to get that minor. And how I was actually able to do that, I tested out of Spanish. I know there was a question earlier about that. So I actually tested out, so I didn't have to take any Spanish courses here or language courses here. And then that opened up my schedule for me to have a minor. I came in with 0 credits. I never took an AP course or anything, and I'm still graduating on time in 4 years. I'm graduating in May. So it's doable. I also have some friends that are double majoring. A lot of those students either tested out of a language or came in with a lot of credits, and they were able to really just maneuver their schedules in that way. So.
Awesome, thanks. Can you talk, Sophie, about what year students typically study abroad? That's a question on here too.
So I would say sophomore and junior year are the really popular ones. I know a lot of my friends were abroad for their semesters, are either spring of sophomore year or fall and spring of our junior year. But I had 2 freshmen that were a part of my study abroad program when I went to Cuba. I know a lot of seniors like to do J-terms because it's kind of like a last hurrah, I'm going abroad my senior year. And I think it's really awesome at St. Thomas. They make it really accessible no matter what year you are. And for every semester, we also have a summer program as well. So like I have a friend who went to Iceland his summer after his freshman year, and he said it was so amazing getting to be there right when he started college off.
Very fun. Who else is ready to travel right now? I'm just gonna say it. That sounds really fun right now. Okay, I'm gonna, speaking of traveling, let's talk out of state. How does that work? Cameron, I know you're from Wisconsin. Do you mind answering what percentage of students are from outside the state of Minnesota? And then there's a question too, and then if you want to answer it or if you want to pass it off to Josh, up to you, about the orientation process. If you're far away and you won't be able to come during a summer orientation, if one of you could help that student feel confident about that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so like Kristen said, I am from Wisconsin, so I'm from Tome, Wisconsin, it's about 3 hours away. And so for me, coming in as an out-of-state student, I believe the percentage is 87% of students are from within Minnesota, if I have that correct. And so that does leave the other 13% is out of state. But for me, it was nice to come in and still have students from out of state and not feel like I was like the only one not coming from Minnesota or the metro. And I got to meet a lot of great people. So like Sophie's from Illinois, and like you start to find those connections of like, I found the people from Wisconsin that were Packer fans too. And so you find those little connections, especially throughout your first year. I can see Sophie shaking her head no at me. But you find those little rivalries and stuff, and it's fun. But with orientation, there are several different sessions you can sign up for, and I don't know if this changed, and Josh can definitely jump in on this. But there is one session offered like right before first year starts. And so if you can't make it to any of those ones that are offered throughout July and throughout the summer, there's that one basically as you're moving in. So if you are coming from an extensive distance away or the timing just doesn't work out, there's definitely an option for you to still get that same experience with students who would also be coming from a farther distance away.
Can I just add, I had seen a question earlier about registration related to that last session. And Susan can echo if I get anything wrong here, but academic counseling will work with those students who are signed up for that last session that would be in September this year and help them build their schedules long before that session. And so the question I saw on the Q&A was, do people get last choice of classes if they sign up for that session? The answer is no. We work really hard to make sure that no matter what session you're coming to in our orientation schedule, all students are having good access to a wide range of classes that fit their class needs well.
Terrific. Thank you so much. All right, I am, as I promised, we're coming up on 8:15, so I am going to wrap us up here, and I do have some housekeeping items and some things I want to share with everyone. First of all, my sincere thanks to the panelists. It's been so great to spend the past hour with you and to see you, and I miss you all, but thank you so much. You've done a great job and hopefully given really great info to our prospective Tommies out here on the site. We did record this video, this webinar, so it will be out on our website. We've had a couple people say, boy, there's a lot of good info here. You can go back and rewatch it or share it with others. We also had a question about, could I reach out or get in touch with any of the panelists? And absolutely, we'd love that. All of the staff people on here can be found on our website, their email addresses and their phone numbers, and they'd love to talk with you. And the students are actually interns in the admissions office. So if you want to email admissions, we will happily put you in touch. Right, guys? You're fine with connecting? Yeah. More than fine, I'm sure. Yes, they would love to answer any additional questions that you have. So please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us, and we'd be happy to help you with that. We referenced a couple different things. There is a class of 2024 Facebook page. So I do want to remind you, if you're not out on that and you want to get to know some of your fellow Tommies who are going to be coming into school with you, please go on out to that Facebook page and join that and get to know people. And then, of course, given everything that's happening, we would love, love, love to have people on campus, and we hope that that will be able to happen sooner rather than later. But we have come up with a lot more virtual visit options. So we are going to be putting, we already have options if you want to just schedule an appointment with a financial aid or an admissions counselor, or if you like to schedule appointments with other people, we can certainly help facilitate that too. So if there are faculty members you'd like to talk with or anyone else on campus, please just let us know, reach out to us, and we'll make sure to make that happen. Anything you need as you're making your final decision, we want to absolutely be a resource for you and help you get in touch with the people that can help answer those questions for you. So that is pretty much all the housekeeping I wanted to talk with you about tonight. I just wanted to end, again, on behalf of the panelists here, and thanking you for joining us and telling you that we're really, really excited and hope that you'll join us in the fall as a St. Thomas student. As I mentioned in the beginning, if you were online then and have hung with us this whole time, I've been here for over 20 years. There's a lot of people on this, staff members on this panelist who have, I've been working with for a really long time. So I think that's just a testament to what a wonderful community St. Thomas is, what a caring and fantastic place it is. And we'd sure love to have you join us. So thanks everybody, good night, and have a great evening. Bye-bye.